The following video is purely educational and is a non-profit project composed by 3 undergrad students. How a natural resource turns out to be a curse. The resource curse. Has anybody ever heard of this? Some of you may be asking, isn't a resource a good thing? And isn't a curse a bad thing? What we're going to explain to you today is what makes a resource cursed, why are these countries cursed, where is the curse today, and how can we lift the curse? What is the resource curse? In 1993, the term natural resource curse was first used by economist Richard Oddy in his paper Industrial Policy Reform in 6 Large Newly Industrializing Countries, the Resource Curse Thesis. Since the 1980s, organizations like the WTO, IMF, World Bank, and Foreign Affairs have been documenting natural resource curse countries to try and understand the problem at hand and solutions that can be lawfully executed. The problem occurs in natural resource-rich lands that share a specific set of ingredients that create a recipe for disaster, that disaster being the resource curse. Other than having natural resources in common, these countries become economically stunted by what is known as the Dutch disease, have weak or more often corrupt government infrastructures, and as a result the citizens of such states may suffer from one or many other side effects such as civil war, health issues, and crimes against humanity. So why are these countries cursed, you may ask? Well, once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a witch. Actually, not really. Let's begin with corrupt, authoritarian governments. When an international corporation finds natural resources to mine, they go to the government for contracts to extract resources within that country. The company pays the government to use the land, and from that point, it is up to the government to distribute the money. When dealing with a corrupt government, or even just an unstable one, the profits made from the country's resources are poorly distributed and rarely invested into other sustainable markets within the country. Unfortunately, this has led to as many as 1 in 5 resource-rich countries with corrupt governments to be pulled into civil war. For those governments who fear losing control, heinous acts such as torture, rape, and forced slavery against their own civilians are more likely to occur. Health issues tend to arise if the mining or drilling companies are left unchecked in how they choose to deal with the contamination of local water supply and agriculture. If the government fails to hold these companies accountable for local health issues caused by unsafe disposal of contaminating agents, this leaves citizens vulnerable and unprotected. Nigeria, Ghana, and Tanzania have had to deal with mercury contamination after gold miners had already moved on. Gold miners use mercury because of its quick, effective way to extract gold in most field conditions. 1/3 of mercury is dispersed into the soil and waterways. Another cause leading to the resource curse is what is known as the Dutch disease. The Dutch disease is a negative side effect of a country's sudden increase of income upon the discovery of a natural resource. While the value of the country's currency rises within the world market, their exports become uncompetitive within that same market, making the country's manufacturing sector suffer greatly. It's no wonder these countries' discovery of natural resources leaves them feeling cursed. So where is the curse today? While the resource curse has touched many different countries, we will focus on what seems to be the most affected ones. One of the biggest examples of the curse comes from Indonesia. Every 10 years or so, they seem to rely on a new natural resource discovery. In the 70s, it was oil. In the 80s, it was timber. Then came mining. and most recently, the discovery of palm oil. Yet, in spite of all of this possible wealth from these resources, they are still struggling with economic growth and development. Papua New Guinea has a shorter history with the curse. Their curse relates to its natural minerals and more recently, oil and gas. They have started a civil war over employment, the destruction of land, and profits leaving the area. Africa has an abundance of many different natural resources such as cobalt, titanium, uranium, timber, copper, coltan, diamonds, oil, and natural gas. Most of Africa suffers from the resource curse. In Sierra Leone and Liberia, the profit from blood diamonds once funded predatory rebels. Many human rights violations were committed, including forced labor. Unfortunately, resources that power modern society fund the militias and chaos in Africa. In 2011, all of the top 8 oil producers had a negative score on the corruption index set by the World Bank and according to Transparency International. These countries consisted of Algeria, Nigeria, Angola, Egypt, Libya, Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Equatorial Guinea. So how can we lift the curse? Many of you may already be asking what can be done to stop this. While there is no cookie-cutter design proven to put an end to the resource curse, the international community has taken some vital steps to help these countries enjoy the benefits of their resources. Corruption within the Global South is a collective goods problem for many countries, as well as multinational corporations, and the U.S. has set an example by barring any U.S. company from making corrupt deals in other countries, and recently other governments have seen fit to implement similar standards. Transparency has also been a huge help in solving collective goods problems by making full disclosure reports accessible to the public. In this aspect, a country's citizens are able to see how their country is putting their newfound wealth to use, and exactly where the funds are going. One company helping with transparency is based out of Berlin and is called Transparency International. They publish yearly reports displaying highly corrupt countries according to business executives. Another company, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, also known as EITI, publishes reports accessible to a country's citizens, which discloses taxes and other payment information regarding the management of the country's resource wealth and expenditures. Economists have also stated that while a resource is meant to be an aid towards a country's economy and development, it is important to inform one's citizens that instant transformations are simply not realistic. Due to the inevitability of a resource running out, they emphasize the need to reinvest the money in sustainable markets, such as industrialization. By creating an environment where service and manufacturing can not only grow but thrive, they will avoid complete dependence on a single and unsustainable natural resource. Now that you know all about the resource curse, perhaps we can all work together to help turn this curse of resources into what it actually should be, a blessing and a help to those in great need of both.